How did the Jets solve their attendance issue, and what are the early impressions of Shawn Monahan? Hey everyone, welcome into another edition of Jets Setting. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Scott Billeck and Ted Wyman of the Winnipeg Sun to talk all things Jets. And guys, NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman dropped by in town on Tuesday to help calm the waters after Jets Executive Chairman Mark Chipman's comments last week about the dip in season ticket holders. Bettman says Winnipeg is a strong NHL market, but that the team, the community, and the fans have to find a solution to make things work long term. Scott, it is the million-dollar question, but what are these solutions?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, listen to the fan base, listen to the 85% of your, the 85% of the individuals that make up your season ticket base. Aside from that, I don't know. I mean, we still have to make sure that or have to wait and see if this is the solution. If I mean, we're not too far removed from Friday when Mark Chipman, the owner of this team, pulled the fire alarm, and then come Tuesday, Gary Bettman comes and kind of douses water on it, and we're left not really too sure what's going on, right? I mean, the owner's pulling the fire alarm, the commissioners, the firemen coming around and trying to make sure everything's okay. It felt a lot like crisis PR. But, at the end of the day, they say it's fine. Bettman says it's fine. I mean, you have to sort of go with it. The fact that this team is building, I mean, the ownership at least is building up downtown the way that it is would suggest that you wouldn't want to take out the reason for people going downtown in Winnipeg. So you're not going to invest all the money that the Chipman and True North have invested in downtown Winnipeg without having kind of your marquee reason for going downtown. But at the same time, I think the truth here at the end of the day is that the Winnipeg Jets need to sell more tickets. They need to have a consistent player or season ticket base. They need to have consistently the place sold out. That's the one thing that Gary Bettman said yesterday that remained true from what he said in 2011. He said the building needs to be sold out. It's the second smallest building in the NHL. And to be honest, it's the smallest building in the NHL once we figure out what's going on with the Arizona Coyotes. So, whether they stay in Arizona in a new arena at some point, it's probably going to be bigger. If they go to Salt Lake City, it's probably going to be bigger there. But to fix it, it's a long road, right? It's not just Gary Bettman came and everything's better. And if you see a ticket bump here, that's a good thing for the team, but how long does that last? Like, they need lasting corporate sponsorship. They need the business community, which they've essentially ignored for the last 12 years, to now come on board, and so they need to incentivize a reason for local businesses, to come on board. And then they need to rebuild the broken relationship they had with many of the season ticket holders that have walked away. I mean, I think at the end of the day, this is very much about relationship building or rebuilding, regaining trust in a fan base, and then it might not come overnight. And then you got to show that this is actually the new way forward, and it's not just, okay, well, help us settle down for 3 years, get everybody into season ticket packages, and go from there. This needs to be a long-term, complete 180 from what this team had done for the last 12 years. So, yeah, I mean, in one word or in a hyphenated word, it's relationship building or rebuilding, and that's what the Winnipeg Jets need to do now.
Ted?
Well, it's not, it's interesting because something is lost in the messaging in all of this. So that's the first and foremost thing for me, is they've got to get that straight. Because Mark Chipman comes out last Friday and he says, it's not going to work for the long haul with this attendance situation. And then Gary, and that's going to get people concerned. I mean, that team has left Winnipeg before. People are worried about when an owner comes out and says something like that. Well, what's the end game? Well, then Gary Bettman shows up in Winnipeg and he says, I don't even know why you people would get this idea that there's anything wrong. Well, because the owner came out and said it. I mean, he didn't have to go out and say that. He chose to go out and say that. He did it in an article in The Athletic. So to me, it's like, get this story straight. Which is it? Is there a problem or isn't there? And then start working on the solutions. And that's what you asked, Rob. You asked me, what are the solutions? Well, to me, that's part of the solution. Figure it out. Get communicating with people. Give them the proper message that they can now process and start to work with. And realistically, Scott said the thing that is the most important thing here. I don't believe that the Jets ever tried to put this on the individual ticket buyer, because they understand that putting it on them is alienating them. Giving them the idea that they need to come and save this team when millionaires, billionaires, whatever it is, own this hockey team, that the individual ticket buyer of Winnipeg needs to come and save this team, even if they feel like they've been treated poorly by the organization. But the part that I don't even think they really believe that, but it gets lost in the messaging, because what they really are trying to say, what Mark Chipman was trying to say, is that they really need the business community now. They maybe didn't need them 12 years ago, but they need them now to get involved, to buy more of to fill up this season ticket base to about 13,000. Right now it's at 9,500. Most teams have that, right? Almost every team in Canada has it. It's something like 45% of their tickets are corporate. Most teams in the United States have that. Winnipeg doesn't have it. And the reason they don't have it is because they opened up their season tickets to everybody. There was no priority for businesses. And I think it was 21,000 people signed up for season tickets. 8,000 of them went on a waiting list. But it had no particular involvement for the business community. And Bettman said it yesterday, they should have held some tickets back and made sure that the business community was involved from the very beginning. So there's a mistake that was made, needs to be rectified, and it's going to be on the Jets themselves to make sure that they repair their relationship with that business community and get them to fill the gap there where they need it. There's money, it can be done, but like Scott said, relationship building has to happen to make this work.
Well, and I'll just add one thing, Ted, just to end, or if we want to keep going on it. But my question is, this team has been out in the business community since April. They've made it clear since they put out their first little veiled threat video that this team could leave. But they've been going to business weekly, sometimes more than once a week, doing presentations to businesses. The question that still hasn't been answered to me is, why aren't businesses buying in to this team? Like, what a part of the pitch right now has businesses not interested, or if they are interested, but there's some sort of gap, what is that? Like, this is the problem that we don't seem to, we don't understand why the business community in Winnipeg, I mean, we can speculate, but we don't really understand why the business community in Winnipeg isn't buying into this team right now. And yeah, I think part of it is Ted and I have both said is they've sort of been ignored. I do wonder too of what local opportunities there are for businesses. The NHL is very much a big corporate world, right? I mean, the Jets are sponsored by Budweiser and all these big companies, right? And that's a big deal for the Jets, because that's where a lot of the money comes from. But this is the first year they've had local craft beer inside the arena, right? And you can't find a lot of local anything really inside the arena. Food options. I mean, you can call something 204 Burger, but that doesn't mean it's actually a local place. It's just the area code of Manitoba. But it's not a local business. It's just run by Centerplate, which is their in-house kind of catering place. And from what I've heard, the contract there doesn't really allow for anybody else to really come in and do offerings and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, to me, I'd love to know what is keeping businesses out of there. What are the hurdles? And so those are, I think, the things too that this team needs to find on the corporate side. I mean, there's only so much you can do, I think the Jets know exactly what they need to do with in terms of their fan base, like the individuals that buy season tickets or whatever. But I think they have had no real idea over especially the last year, how to sell it to local businesses. What's the return on investment for putting up $30, $60, $100,000 in investment in tickets and advertising and all that? What is the return on investment? What are businesses getting back for that? And I think at the end of the day, we don't know what that is. And the club hasn't been very forthcoming with any information on that side. So it's hard to kind of understand, and we're sort of just left here to kind of speculate why local businesses, which is, the Winnipeg Jets are the biggest ticket in town in terms of, exposure and they're in the biggest league that Winnipeg offers in terms of sports and all that stuff. And people aren't buying into it. And that's an interest, or at least businesses, let's say corporations, aren't buying into it. And I think there's a lot of people that would love to know why that is.
There's a lot of layers to this onion, as you guys have spoken about here. Let's get to the on-ice product for a second. And safe to say that Shawn Monahan has exceeded expectations with 6 goals in his first 9 games as a Jet. Ted, what has stood out to you about his play since coming over in the trade with Montreal?
Well, it's pretty quantifiable, man. When you've got 6 goals in the amount of time that he's been here, he's had a hat trick. He was in on a goal with his first assist yesterday. Boy, I don't know what he's been doing. But and the really quantifiable thing, and I'm sure Scott would agree, is how good the Jets' power play has been since he arrived in town. I mean, it was awful. It was just awful. They could not score a goal. They 1 in 33, I think, 0 in 21. They were just, and every day, Scott is a beat writer for the Jets. He's out there every day writing, why can't this group score any goals on the power play when they've got as much talent as they do? Well, they've put in Sean Monahan. They put him in, and he's in that bumper spot in the middle, and you could just tell the difference right away. It opens so much ice up, and suddenly they're snapping the puck around, and Monahan's been scoring on the power play. Gabe Vilardi in the down low position has been doing a fantastic job getting pucks into the net. Kyle Connor scoring again. Mark Scheifele. I mean, it's really an incredible difference, particularly in that area. And I don't know that you often get a trade deadline. It's not even a trade deadline, but a back half of the season trade for a player that has that kind of impact. I'm not saying he's the greatest player in the history of hockey or anything like that, but he certainly was the very right kind of player that the Jets needed. Plus, when he's not on the power play, he gives them an extremely solid second-line center. And they've been able to move Vlad Nemesnikov, who was their second-line center, down to the 4th line, where, along with Cole Perfetti and Morgan Barron, he's forming really a very solid scoring potential 4th line. Really good opportunity for the Jets to roll all 4. So, to me, that's been a real winner of a trade by Kevin Chevalier.
Scott?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it maybe more impressive than the 6 and 9 games is the fact that he scored 6 of those goals in his last 5 games. The first 4 games that he played for this team, it was a feeling out process, right? They were trying to figure out his line mates. They're trying to get him acquainted to the power play. They found him, that role in the bumper spot has worked wonders for this power play. Just the way that it's, pulled guys either towards Monahan and away from Gabriel Vilardi or away from Mark Scheifele, or pulled guys towards Gabriel Vilardi or Mark Scheifele where Shawn Monahan gets open, right? I mean, the whole idea of a power play is you're up a man and there should be a guy open at some point. The Jets have made that an effective thing with Monahan, who's very smart in that bumper role. He's willing to kind of move up and down in the slot there. Him and Scheifele have found this way to find a quick shot, and they've worked the tic-tac-toe a few times now with Gabe Vilardi down low behind the net. So it's worked out well, and it's opened up Gabe Vilardi too. That's the other thing. One of the things with Shawn Monahan here is that his arrival has allowed a lot of other players to kind of get going. Even on the second line at 5-on-5, he's starting to gel with Nikolai Ehlers now, and that's got Nikolai Ehlers rolling again. And he's helped with faceoffs. He's given the team between, at one point, against Vancouver last weekend, he played 20 odd minutes in the game, 22 minutes. And, he's given them between, 16 and 18 minutes a night, which is exactly what this team needed. I mean, at the end of the day, this team needed a second line center. They needed a bona fide, second line pivot who they didn't have to try and, work in. And no discredit to Vlad Nemestikov, who played really well in his without Monahan around. But this team, to be a serious contender, to be a serious kind of playoff team going forward, they need to solidify that second line role. And so they've done that. They've done it with Shawn Monahan over 9 games. It's looked really good. And I think that's exactly what the Jets want. I think the biggest thing for me, if there was one word for it all, it'd be fit. And that's the thing. I was talking to a player in the room the other day, and he said, Shawn Monahan's a low maintenance guy. He came in, and it was very easy for him to kind of assimilate to Winnipeg's team. He's done it really well. And I think that's, I think, if we want to take this one step further, what you've seen from Shawn Monahan, the Jets have been missing this for several years now, since, the days of Brian Little. And even beyond that, because the Jets, every playoffs, even with Brian Little, the last 2 playoffs before Brian Little's career was ended by an errant slap shot, they were still looking at the trade deadline for second line centers. So I'd be curious if the Jets are going to start, a bit of a full court press on Shawn Monahan to try and get him to sign here a little longer. He's 29, so I don't think it's going to be a 7-year deal. But if you're looking in the 3 to 4 range and give Monahan a chance to, earn money after having to come back on a pretty cheap contract this year after some bad injury luck, Winnipeg might be the spot that works for both sides. And I think that's got to be an option that's going to be explored now too, because of how good the fit has been and how he's kind of taken to Rick Bowness's system. So yeah, it's been a really good, obviously on the ice addition. I think off the ice it's been good, and I think it's given the Jets an option. Let's say if they can convince Monahan that Winnipeg's the right place for him, he's going to get this ice time and play a pivotal role in this team, and he is. He's playing power play, penalty kill, 5-on-5, obviously. Credit to the general manager, Kevin Cheveldayoff. He found the right fit. He talked about that when he traded for Monahan, about how important that was, and it's worked out well for this team. So. Obviously, the biggest test, I suppose, will be the playoffs, but the early returns here from Monahan, he's got this team scoring again, and he sparked the power play, and that's the one thing that needed to happen, and he's helped do that, and it's kind of worked wonders for a Jets team that potentially, without some of these power play goals, they might have lost a few more games during this stretch. So, yeah, it's been good all around for the team.
Yeah, it's all working well for this team right now. Winners of 4 in a row, back atop the Central Division. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Scott Billeck and Ted Wyman, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time on another edition of Jet Setting.